Deputy Dara Calleary.
Thank you. As concurred, the crisis in our health service is breaking daily records. The human misery, the human case studies that are being experienced right across our island have been previously unheard of. We've seen older people being left on trolleys for days on end, families nervous about bringing their loved ones into emergency departments because of the delays. We've seen elective surgeries being cancelled, and on Tuesday, Deputy Martin raised the issue in particular about children's elective surgeries being cancelled, and that has been confirmed this morning by a leading professional involved in one of the main hospitals. 117,000 children are on inpatient and outpatient waiting lists. On Tuesday night, the fire service had to be called to Limerick University Hospital to inspect the conditions in the emergency department there. Our building recently opened, built under this government's watch, and patients then, on the instructions of the fire service, were moved. And there's been huge coverage in this House and outside of all of the issues around our health service. We debated it 2 weeks ago. Yet I always got the sense that there was no understanding on your side of the House about the impact. There was no real interest. You were just going through the motions of defending it. And that was confirmed to me overnight when I read the transcript of the Health Committee yesterday, where one of your own colleagues spoke about her shock about the conditions in the health system at the moment. Couldn't understand that children with head injuries, broken arms and legs all had to wait in the same room as children who were vomiting. She said conditions and waiting times are unacceptable. She hoped that nobody would recognise her as a politician, and that, that all of the stress that any parent, that thousands of parents have been experiencing, thousands of children of elderly parents have been experiencing. Yet it only seems to be now that the penny is dropping, and because of that testimony, apparently you're going to have a special meeting of the Fine Gael Parliamentary Party to discuss it. The horse is bolted, and now you're getting panicked. Taoiseach, do you accept that the winter plan, trumpeted by this government 2 weeks ago as the answer, even though there was no new staff or no new beds, is failing in the context of what's unfolding in our emergency rooms and in our children's hospital departments across the island? And Taoiseach, did you share your colleagues' assessment of the health service, and are you embarrassed to be a minister and the Taoiseach in this government?
Taoiseach has 3 minutes.
No is the straight answer to the last question. But I, like everybody else in government, do appreciate the pressures that the health system is under and the pressures that sometimes puts on families and parents also. There are a lot of good things happening in healthcare in Ireland, but there are also real pressure points. And I think that Deputy O'Connell's comments as a mother and as a TD that's part of government, I think was expressing a frustration and a recognition that there is a need for significant investment in children's health care, and effectively it was reaffirming the need for a new children's hospital and continued investment in hospital care for children. It isn't acceptable when a parent takes a child into accident and emergency in a hospital, particularly looking for specialist paediatric care, that they're waiting for long periods of time. It's not acceptable to me, it's not acceptable to the government, and it's not acceptable to the Minister for Health. And that is why we are changing how we provide hospital care and emergency care for children by making a massive capital investment in a new children's hospital with satellites outside of that children's hospital in different parts of Dublin and indeed outside of Dublin. A big paediatric unit announced for Cork University Hospital as well in the last number of months. The truth is, at this time of year, there are added pressures that have resulted in waiting times being longer than they should be in emergency departments, primarily because of flu, because of vomiting bug, and because of respiratory virus issues. In response to that, CHI has restricted all elective and routine inpatient procedures in the coming weeks. The HSE have issued an apology to all families whose children may have had their procedure postponed at short notice, but every effort is being made to improve the situation, and appointments will be rescheduled at the earliest possible opportunity. Influenza hospitalisations are increasing, as they always do at this time of year, and the best prevention measure, if you're a parent, is to ensure that your children get the flu vaccine. And I would encourage parents in particular to think about that and to act on it to ensure that we're trying to reduce pressure on the system. I think it is also worth saying that the children's hospitals, EDs, do remain open, although patients attending have experienced some delays. CHI operate cross-city bed management for admissions to their 3 EDs in Dublin and their urgency care centre at Connolly Hospital, which is now up and running and will have a capacity over a 12-month period to deal with 25,000 children. So things are happening, Deputy. This is a priority for government. We know exactly the pressures that are in hospitals, both for staff, but more importantly for patients. And from a policy perspective and an investment perspective, we're responding to that.
A supplementary, Deputy.
Things are happening. I'll tell you what's happening. Fire service has been called into emergency departments around the country. You're trumpeting, and the Taoiseach trumpeted the new Children's Urgent Care Unit at Blanchardstown Hospital. That was supposed to be open Monday to Sunday from 8 to 6. It's only opening Monday to Friday from 9 to 5 because you can't staff it. You haven't staffed it properly because the mess you have made and presided over in the Children's Hospital is impacting on staffing budgets across the health service. There are 117,000 children on inpatient and outpatient waiting lists. Postponing elective surgery is going to add to that. You're not doing anything about consultant contracts to address consultant vacancies. You're presiding over nursing vacancies. If those positions were filled, these waiting lists would be addressed quicker, people wouldn't be waiting. In Temple Street yesterday, in the emergency department, there are 13 beds in that emergency department, and 12 of those 13 beds were taken with admitted patients yesterday because there was no space in the hospital. That's the reality. That's the reality that you seem oblivious to and you seem blind to until one of your own colleagues suddenly woke you up, and now you're professing concern. Concern is not good enough for somebody who's 3 days waiting. Concern is not good enough for somebody whose child is so sick that they leave after 9 hours with no treatment. That's not good enough, Taoiseach. The winter plan that you have championed is failing. It is failing in its first 2 weeks. What is going to happen for the rest of the winter?
Taoiseach, 1 minute.
Deputy, I think your fake outrage is a bit much, actually, quite frankly. I take questions in this House every Thursday, and virtually every Thursday, and understandably so, healthcare issues are raised. But the idea that you get up each week and somehow try to spin this message that the government doesn't care, the government doesn't know what's going on, is nonsense. What you saw was a deputy in this House as a mother, understandably frustrated. This is a government that understands that there is a.
Sorry, deputies. If you want to have a chat amongst yourselves, you can go out.
Yeah, and we are investing.
Taoiseach without interruption. Please, Deputy Tobin.
We're investing €17 billion in our healthcare system next year, which is significantly more than ever before. We're prioritising how that's spent, depending on the pressures that emerge from month to month and week to week. We have a winter initiative which has €26 million of extra money committed to it, which is about trying to ensure that throughput through hospitals is as efficient as it can be through the pressure months of the winter. Which is about step-down facilities, adding extra beds to the system, extra staffing to the system, keeping people out of hospital as much as possible through the winter months, where we're now starting to see pressure. And that goes for children as well as adults. And we will continue to prioritise their health care with the resources that are available to do that. And if you look at some of the bigger pictures, which people in this House don't do because they want to focus on solving problems, and I accept that, but we have had a national inpatient survey where 27,000 patients who were in hospital last May had the opportunity to actually have their say on how they rate the health service. And 84% of those that took part rated their stay in hospital as either being good or very good. There are good things happening in healthcare in Ireland. We have incredibly dedicated staff that are looking after people well, but we have real pressure points, and we will prioritise the response accordingly.